Ah, the Heritage Unit. I love them, you love them, every foamer loves a good old Heritage Unit. Now, for the uninitiated, a Heritage Unit is a modern locomotive painted with the colors of an old railroad that no longer exists. Railroads often do this to show appreciation for a past part of their history, and most likely just to keep trademarks. These locomotives add a nice splash of color to otherwise boring and bland modern rosters. And with so many Class 1s and so many Heritage Units among them, it's easy to pick favorites. And my personal favorite Heritage Unit is Norfolk Southern 1069, the Virginian Heritage Unit. The reasons why I like the Virginian Heritage Unit so much can really be narrowed down to 3 factors. First of all is the color scheme. I mean, just look at it. Black and yellow is kind of a unique color scheme these days. I can't think of any other locomotive that wears such a striking livery. Second of all is, in 2023, the locomotive received a shiny, fresh coat of paint, which I think it pretty badly needed. And Norfolk Southern did an amazing job with the repaint. And third, and most importantly for me, is that I've seen this engine 6 times, and each time it's been a surprise or a treat in some way, shape, or form. Whether I wasn't expecting to see it that day and it kind of just came out of nowhere, or it was just sitting in a convenient place. Or sometimes it came on a special day. One time it came on my birthday. So I have a soft spot for this locomotive. In this particular video, we're going to discuss catches 4 and 5, which took place back-to-back on 2 days in May, where it wasn't just 1069 of interest in the consist. There was another colorful engine tagging along behind. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take a look at the great Virginian and CMQ Foam Fest of May of 2024. May 5th started like any other normal day of train spotting. I sat in my normal spot and just waited for trains to come. I was met early on with this auto-rack train with a solo leader and a solo mid-DP. After this one passed, I learned that Norfolk Southern 12N rolled east through Elkhart, and leading the train was NS 1069, with a former Central Maine Quebec AC44 trailing second, engine 3987. This was quite the colorful matchup and it made me pretty excited. However, I was kind of skeptical it would come through at a time early enough for me to catch it. I had commitments that night, and they were more important than any colorful trains. So I didn't get my hopes up too much and just sat back and enjoyed what came through. The next train was a eastbound manifest. 2 engines on the point and 1 at the back. There were lots of covered hoppers on this one, but a couple other pieces of rolling stock sprinkled here and there. Another eastbound after him, a C6M duo on a stack train. a westbound manifest next with Union Pacific Foreign Power 4. This was kind of interesting as it's one of Union Pacific's locomotives that wears its newer livery. The only difference between this livery and its previous livery is really the placement of the American flag. On the older livery, it was front and center on the long hood. Now it's been moved to the front of the nose. Honestly, I don't think it looks any worse, but I don't think it looks any better either. I'm impartial to Union Pacific either way, really. Still cool to see. Next up, another eastbound manifest. A solo ES44AC at the front and an SD70ACE at the back.
A few moments later.
It's later in the day now, and I've moved location to a spot just south of my usual. We're sitting here and I meet this westbound intermodal with BNSF foreign power and a lot of international intermodal containers. You'll also probably notice that there's a lot more rail fans here now, and they're all waiting on the same thing I am, that Virginian CMQ duo. I honestly had no idea it would be through here at a reasonable hour, so I was hoping and holding my breath that it would come through. However, my hopes of a speedy arrival on 12N was dashed. As a grain train just up the line had stalled on the hill, and Virginian and CMQ were stuck behind him. So, it was going to be a little while longer. It took a little bit, but that grainer finally got going, and here she is. Note the old Rock Island hoppers on this one. Pretty cool. With the stalled grain train finally cleared, I had a feeling that train 12M with the Virginian and CMQ duo would come through next. However, this westbound manifest came through. I'm not complaining though. The more the merrier. You might notice that the cars on this train are a little wet, and that's because there was a rainstorm further east and it was looming on the horizon this whole time. I was very much hoping and praying that the CMQ Virginian duo would get here before the rain did. And here she finally is, 12N with engine 1069, the Virginian Heritage Unit leading, and engine 3987, a former Central Maine Quebec AC44 trailing second. I gave a rundown of the Heritage units earlier, but what about that second engine? Engine 3987 is an AC4400CW of Central Maine and Quebec Railroad heritage, and still wears that railroad's livery, albeit patched out for Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern bought this locomotive and a handful of other AC44s from CEFX, with the intention of using them to fill the power shortage the railroad has been going through for a while. These engines were on the roster for a good year, but by now most of them are in storage or away at Wabtec awaiting rebuilding into new AC44 C6Ms. I was pretty excited to finally have caught train 12N with this colorful duo, and I had to go after seeing this one. However, I would fortunately enough be treated to the same powered set literally the next day. It's now the next day, May 6th, and I'm out in Alliance, Ohio on a pretty dreary looking day. The reason being is because the Virginian CMQ duo was turned around in Conway Yard and was now leading train 171 down to Chattanooga. The reason I'm in Alliance for this catch is because 171 does not go up the Cleveland line. It stays on the Fort Wayne line all the way, eventually turning out of the Sandusky district in Bucyrus. While waiting on 171, I of course saw a little bit more traffic, starting off with this intermodal train with a Dash 9 leader. Pretty neat to see. There was a little bit of waiting after that last intermodal, but here she came. 171 with Virginian leading and CMQ trailing second. You'll notice that the engines are no longer elephant style, as only Virginian was turned around in Conway. They are now back-to-back leading 171 across the diamond in Alliance. .171 is one of the few trains that takes the Fort Wayne line west out of Alliance. This line used to be the main east-west route for the Pennsylvania Railroad, but these days does not see too much traffic. 171 and its twin pair, Train 170, are about the only manifests on this line, with a handful of locals and a coal train or two along this line as well. 171 is one of my favorite trains in the system, along with its sister 170. Both trains tend to have a nice variety of rolling stock and go through some areas that don't usually get a lot of traffic on Norfolk Southern, including the Fort Wayne line and the Dayton district, which is also one I railfan usually back home. These two locomotives were first lashed up together in East Binghamton, New York, where from there they took a manifest train to Elkhart. In Elkhart, the train was turned around and the two made its way to Conway, Pennsylvania on 12N, which we saw yesterday. and now the pair was rolling south out of Conway to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Unfortunately, Chattanooga would be the last stop on this duo's tour, as in Chattanooga, both engines would be split up. Virginian would go back north on 170 to be taken to Altoona, where it was set aside for an OCS train that did not eventually happen. 3987, however, was put with a number of other CEFX locomotives in Chattanooga and has since been set aside for conversion into an AC44C6M. After 171 cleared, I was able to catch this massive westbound coal drag. A 2x2x2 arrangement on this. 2 engines at the front, 2 in the middle, and 2 at the back. These long company coal drags are some of my favorite trains to see on the Cleveland line, so I stuck around for this one. Unfortunately, the traffic would start to die down after this as they were beginning to do some track maintenance here in the line. As well, I had other commitments this evening, so I couldn't stay around for too much longer. But it was still cool to see. And with that, my little road trip to Alliance was complete. Getting to see the Virginian CMQ again was definitely a treat. Glad I came. Well folks, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching and sticking it around to the end. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed catching these trains and putting this video together. If you enjoyed railfan content, stay tuned as I've got a fair amount down the pipeline, including some really interesting catches in really interesting locations. So hopefully that will be a treat. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't enjoy this video, be sure to absolutely smash that dislike button. If you can't wait to see more train content, drop a subscription to be notified of whenever I post another train video. This is Penn Central 5700 signing out, and always remember, don't do drugs.